Good afternoon from the farmer's garden. I'm one of the farmers and I'm back in the kitchen. Today we're going to be making zucchini chocolate cake. And I'm going to kind of mix this one up. Usually I don't frost this one, but this time I'm going to make the zucchini chocolate cake and then we're going to use the classic Coca-Cola cake frosting on it. So I'm pretty excited about that. So I've got all the ingredients here and we're going to get started. This is a great way to use up the bigger zucchini, or again, if you've got some that are a little strange, that like maybe one end, for example, these that don't pollinate well, we usually don't put these in the basket, but if you come across one and this end is kind of soft, we'll chop that off and we'll use the rest of it and it'll be good to go. So I'm going to start by showing you everything that I have here, all the ingredients, and then we'll get started. Okay, so here's the ingredients. We've got zucchini, butter, buttermilk, sugar, eggs, vanilla, salt, baking powder, baking soda, cocoa, and flour. And that's all we're going to need for this. We're going to start out by shredding the zucchini with a cheese grater. All right, so I've got the cheese grater and we're going to get started shredding the zucchini. You're just going to take the ends off, the bloom end and the stem end. We take those off, and then I like to use the little bit bigger holes for this. You can also use a food processor. Just run this through the shredder setting on your food processor. But I'm going to do it this way. We need 3 cups of shredded zucchini. So I'm just going to shred up all of these that way, and then we'll keep going with the next step. All right, I'm finishing this up. I had about 3.5 of the small ones that were good, and then I've got this one big one. I may end up with a little more than 3 cups, but I'll probably stick it all in there. It'll just be extra moist, right? Like I told you the other day when we made the squash casserole, I'm a dump cook. I'm not very precise about anything. If you prefer, you can peel your zucchini first. I don't like that extra step. I'd rather just leave the peel on. Let's see how this looks right here. Actually, nope, I'm not going to put the rest of that in because that is 3 cups right there. And I don't want it to be too soggy. So we'll go with that right there. And I'll get all these zucchini cleaned up and then we'll start the next step. All right, let's get started actually making the cake. We're going to start with 2 sticks of butter and 2.5 cups of sugar. And then I'm just going to cream these together until they're nice and fluffy. While that's creaming, I'm going to start cracking the eggs. We need 4 eggs for this. Almost cracked that one too soon. Turn that up just a bit. Now that was room temperature butter. You want to use it soft so that you can mix it up good. If you forget to set it out, a microwave for about 20 seconds, 20 to 30, will get you fixed up. Hopefully you can hear me well over the mixer. All right, so there's 4 eggs. We're going to put these in one at a time. So I'm just going to kind of tip the bowl. These fresh eggs stick together well, so there went 1, 2, 3, and you can see it's just 1 egg left in the bowl. They stick together really nicely and go in there good. So there's 4 eggs in the bowl. Get the shells out of the way here. Get that egg washed off my hand, and the next thing is going to be vanilla. We're going to use 2 teaspoons of vanilla, and I'm going to eyeball it. All right, so that's looking amazingly fluffy. I'm going to show you in the bowl here. You can see how wonderful that looks. That got all beat up, nice and fluffy. Okay, so our next step is going to be dry ingredients. If I can get you set back up. All right, our next step is dry ingredients. And we have 3 cups of flour. We're going to use half a cup of cocoa. And then we've got 2 teaspoons of baking powder. 1 teaspoon of baking soda. Almost gone there. And then 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. 1, 2, 3. So there's all the dry ingredients together. We'll kind of mix those just a little bit. And then we're going to alternate putting the dry ingredients and the buttermilk. We have a cup of buttermilk over here. All right, so there's all the dry ingredients mixed together, and we'll start by putting some of them in. Where did my cup measure go? So there's the first of that. We want to start with dry and end with wet. So first is some of the flour mixture. And then once that mixes in good, we're going to put about 1/3 of the buttermilk. And again, we're just going to eyeball it. That splashes pretty good in there. Okay. Once the milk is mixed in, we'll do more of the dry ingredients. Ooh, the puff. I hate that. When all the flour comes poofing out everywhere. And my whisk beater is sort of bent, so it's worse about that too. All right, a little bit more dry. Then we'll do about another 1/3 of the milk once that's mixed in good. There we go. And then this time, we'll get the last of the dry ingredients in. Again, the giant puff, flour everywhere. We'll get that mixed in good, and then the milk. And I am going to go ahead and scrape the sides really good and get all that flour mixed in. So we'll get all that scraped down and add the last of the milk. We want to end with the wet ingredient. And we're doing this as a sheet pan. This recipe can actually make, if you want to do it in round pans and stack it and frost it all pretty. But we're going to do this as a sheet cake, nice and easy. All right, beautiful. Everything's mixed in. Now we have not put in the zucchini yet, so that's the next step, is to add the zucchini. All right, so there's what it looks like, all beat up and fluffy and amazing. So this is where we fold in the zucchini. Okay, so we're getting all that stirred in. You will not be able to taste the zucchini in this cake. That sounds like such an odd place to put zucchini, but it just makes it amazingly moist, like zucchini bread or banana bread. It's just amazingly moist. So there it is, all mixed together. And I'm gonna get the pan. I'm gonna use a non-stick pan so I don't have to flour it because, like I say, I'm just keeping this really simple today. There we go. Spread that out. I've already preheated the oven to 350, so we will get this in the oven, and it's going to bake for about 20 minutes. So we'll get this mess cleaned up and then start the process for that Cracker Barrel Coca-Cola cake frosting. That's hard for me to get out. Lots of C's in there. All right. There we go, in the pan, going in the oven. And then we'll let... Okay, so the cake is in the oven and we're gonna start the frosting now. This is the Coca-Cola cake frosting. So we're gonna pour it on while the cake is still hot. That's why I'm starting it now. So this one's pretty easy to do. We need a saucepan and a stove. And we're gonna put a stick of butter, 1/4 cup, 6 tablespoons of heavy cream or milk. I'm going to use this cream this time because I actually have it in the house. Usually I just have milk and that works just fine too. And then we've got 3 tablespoons of cocoa powder. So that's going in as well. And we will turn this on and we're going to heat it until the butter melts. Grab my spoon. All right, so we will need to stir this frequently just to kind of keep it from scorching. Once the butter melts in the pan, then we're going to add the vanilla and a pound of powdered sugar, and we're going to stick it back in the mixer and beat it all up good that way. All right, so this is done melting on the stove. It just looks like melted chocolate at this point. I think I said it was a 1/4 cup of butter. It's a 1/4 pound of butter, so 1/2 cup. All right, so we're gonna add powdered sugar. And vanilla. And again, I'm gonna eyeball the vanilla because it's like family tradition or something, I don't know. And then we're gonna pour this in. All that melted chocolate there. We're going to beat it. Okay, turn it off and scrape down the sides here. The reason I like this frosting is because it goes on while the cake is still hot, which means it pretty much spreads itself, and I have less work to do. Now this recipe does tend to work slightly better with margarine instead of butter, but butter is what I had today, so that's what we're going with. Okay, there we go. Set that part aside for me to get to lick the beater later. Now we're just waiting for the cake to come out of the oven, which it should be ready in just a few minutes. Okay, so here's the cake. I just pulled it out of the oven. It's looking especially moist and delicious. I'm gonna pour this frosting on it while it's still hot, and that'll help it spread all around. this cake baked for around 25 minutes at 350. You can always test a cake to make sure that it's done. First of all, the middle should not be jiggly when you pull it out, but you can also stick a toothpick or a knife in the center, and if it comes out clean, then it's done. Now this one is very moist, so you may get a few crumbs on your knife, but it should not be smeared with batter, obviously. Alright, so getting that all spread out, and we'll let it cool, and then we'll dig into this as dessert with our supper tonight. So that is zucchini fudge cake. We have plenty of zucchini for y'all to try this yourselves, and I will put the recipe for the cake and the frosting in the description for the video in case you're interested in trying it. Thank you for visiting my kitchen today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something, and y'all be sure and like and subscribe, tell your friends about us, and come back when you can stay longer. Thanks.